Hello friends. My name is Nikhil, and today I'm going to tell you a story which will make you think. So, let's start. In the coastal city of Mangaluru, people knew Mohan Kumar Vivekananda as a quiet and educated man. He worked as a science teacher in a government primary school. Every morning he arrived neatly dressed in a clean white shirt, carrying a worn-out bag filled with books and notebooks. To parents and students, he looked like the perfect teacher, soft-spoken, disciplined, and respectful. Nobody could imagine that behind that calm smile lived a man hiding terrifying secrets. In school, Mohan behaved like an ordinary teacher. He explained science lessons patiently, attended staff meetings, and greeted everyone politely. Other teachers trusted him. Neighbors respected him. Some even described him as a simple and spiritual man. But outside the classroom, Mohan lived a completely different life. He spent hours wandering through bus stands, temples, crowded markets, and railway stations, silently observing people. He was not searching for friends, he was searching for victims. Mohan carefully targeted women who were emotionally vulnerable. Most of them came from poor or middle-class families. Many were under pressure because their families could not afford dowries. Some were worried because they were crossing the marriageable age, and relatives constantly taunted them. Others simply dreamed of escaping loneliness and building a better life. Mohan understood these fears perfectly. He knew exactly what to say and how to behave. He would first approach women politely, pretending to be kind and caring. Sometimes he offered small help, buying tea, helping with bags, or starting casual conversations near temples or bus stops. He never looked dangerous. That was his greatest weapon. To avoid suspicion, he rarely used his real name. With one woman, he introduced himself as Anand. To another, he became Sudhakar. Sometimes he even claimed to work in private companies or government offices. Each lie was carefully prepared. He created different identities like changing masks. Whenever he met a woman who seemed emotionally broken or desperate for support, he slowly entered her life. He listened to her problems patiently and acted like the perfect gentleman. He spoke gently about love, trust, marriage, and destiny. Many women had spent years hearing insults from society. Your parents still haven't found a husband? How long will you stay unmarried? Who will marry without dowry? Mohan used those wounds against them. He would say things like, "I don't care about dowry. I only want true love. I'll marry you no matter what society says." For women who had spent years feeling rejected, those words felt like hope. Days turned to weeks. Mohan stayed in constant contact, building emotional dependence. He acted patient and understanding. Sometimes he spoke about starting a new life together, far away from judgmental relatives. He made the women believe they had finally found someone who truly loved them. Once the trust became complete, Mohan moved to the next stage of his trap. Then he would suggest a secret marriage. According to him, families and society would only create problems, so the couple should quietly run away and marry first. Later, he promised everyone would accept the relationship. Many victims hesitated at first, but Mohan knew how to manipulate emotions. He pretended to be hurt if they doubted him. Sometimes he acted emotional and said, "Don't you trust me? I'm ready to leave everything for you. We'll start a beautiful new life together." Eventually, several women agreed. Then came one of the most chilling parts of his plan. Before the supposed wedding day, Mohan would tell the woman, "You should look beautiful on our wedding day. Wear all your gold jewelry. Bring your savings too. We'll need money to begin our new life. But don't tell anyone at home. They'll try to stop us." Blinded by trust and dreams of marriage, the women followed his instructions. Some secretly packed their jewelry late at night. Some left emotional letters behind for their families. Others quietly walked out of their homes before sunrise, believing they were about to begin a happy married life. None of them knew they were walking straight into darkness.
and Mohan, the smiling school teacher in the white shirt, continued searching for his next victim as if nothing had happened.
Once the woman fully trusted him, Mohan Kumar would ask her to leave home quietly with all her jewelry and savings. Most of the victims believed they were escaping toward a new life filled with love and marriage. Many left before sunrise. Some carried small bags packed in secret. Some hid gold chains and bangles beneath their clothes. A few left handwritten notes for their families, promising they would return soon as married women. As they stepped out of their homes, nervous but hopeful, Mohan welcomed them with a calm smile that made them feel safe. Then the journey began. Mohan usually took the women to distant towns across Karnataka, often choosing places like Madikeri, Mysuru, or remote parts near Mangaluru. These locations were far enough from the victims' hometowns to avoid recognition and suspicion. During the journey, Mohan behaved like a caring fiancé. He bought food for them, spoke softly about their future, and discussed imaginary plans for married life. He talked about renting a house, buying furniture, and living peacefully away from relatives who demanded dowry. To the victims, it felt like freedom. To Mohan, it was simply another carefully planned trap. When they reached the town, Mohan checked into small lodges or budget hotels. He signed hotel registers using fake names and introduced the woman as his wife. Since the couple appeared normal, hotel staff rarely questioned them. Inside the room, the victims finally began believing that their struggles were ending. Some smiled with relief for the first time in years. They imagined wedding rituals, a future family, and a husband who had accepted them without greed or conditions. After years of emotional pressure from society, Mohan's promises felt almost magical. But that night, the night they believed was the beginning of happiness, would become the final peaceful night of their lives. The next morning, Mohan would act calm and cheerful, as if wedding preparations were about to begin. He usually told the victim that before visiting the temple for marriage rituals, there was one important thing she needed to do. Then he would take out a small white tablet. Holding it casually, he would say, "This is an anti-pregnancy pill. It's important to take it before marriage, otherwise there could be problems later." Most victims had little knowledge about such medicines, and by then they trusted Mohan completely. He spoke with confidence, like someone who genuinely cared for their future. The women never realized that the tablet was not medicine. It was potassium cyanide, a deadly poison capable of killing within moments. Mohan had prepared every detail carefully. He instructed the women not to consume the tablet inside the hotel room. He claimed that the medicine could cause vomiting or discomfort, which might create problems before the wedding ceremony. Instead, he took them near crowded public places, usually close to major bus stands where public toilets were available. Busy locations helped him disappear easily afterward without attracting attention. Standing outside, Mohan would calmly tell the victim, "Go inside and take the tablet with water. I'll wait here." Trusting him completely, the women entered the toilet alone. Inside those tiny, dirty public washrooms, many victims spent their final moments of their lives believing that marriage rituals were only minutes away. The moment the cyanide touched their tongue, the poison began to attack the body rapidly. Within seconds, breathing became difficult and the nervous system started to shut down. Before anyone could understand what was happening, the victim collapsed to the floor, alone, confused, and dying. Outside, Mohan waited only long enough to ensure the poison had done its work. Then he disappeared into the crowd. He took the jewelry, money, and every trace of the victim's dreams with him, leaving behind another mysterious death that would confuse police for years.
After the woman entered the public toilet, Mohan Kumar would wait outside calmly, behaving like an ordinary man standing near a bus stand. Around him, buses arrived and departed, vendors shouted for customers, and crowds moved without noticing anything unusual. Inside the restroom, another life was ending. At first, nobody outside understood what had happened. Sometimes people only became suspicious when the woman failed to come out for a long time. A cleaner or staff member would knock on the door repeatedly, receiving no answer. By the time someone forced the door open, chaos usually followed. A young woman would be found lying motionless on the floor. Panic spread quickly among the crowd. Some people assumed she had fainted. Others believed she had consumed poison intentionally. Local police would soon arrive and begin basic investigations. But while everyone's attention focused on the body inside the toilet, Mohan was already disappearing. He moved fast and carefully. Before suspicion could reach him, he returned to the hotel room where he and the victim had stayed as a married couple. He collected her bag, gold jewelry, cash, clothes, identification papers, anything valuable or useful, and quietly checked out or slipped away unnoticed. Within hours, he vanished completely. All that remained behind was an unidentified dead woman. For investigators, those cases looked confusing but ordinary. There were usually no signs of physical assault, struggle, or forced poisoning. The victims had entered the restroom alone, and witnesses often remembered seeing them behaving normally before their deaths. Because cyanide poisoning acted so quickly, many victims collapsed before they could call for help. In the early years, police officers often classified the deaths as suicides. The locations themselves strengthened that assumption. Since the women were found inside public toilets after consuming poison, investigators believed they might have taken their own lives due to personal shame, failed relationships, or family pressure. Some officers thought the women were frightened of social humiliation. Others assumed they were dealing with secret pregnancies or emotional distress. Case after case was quietly closed. Files were stacked away under labels like unidentified female, suicide by poison, no suspicious evidence. Nobody noticed the terrifying similarities connecting the deaths. The victims were mostly women. Most wore jewelry before disappearing. Many had traveled away from home with an unknown man. Several bodies were found near bus stands or public toilets, and almost every case involved cyanide poisoning. But because the deaths happened across different towns in Karnataka over several years, no one initially connected them to a single killer. Meanwhile, Mohan continued living his double life. In school, he still taught children science lessons with calm professionalism. Parents greeted him respectfully. Colleagues trusted him. To society, he remained an educated government teacher. No one imagined that behind that ordinary appearance was a serial killer who had perfected murder through manipulation and patience. Then came the case that finally changed everything. In 2009, a 22-year-old woman named Anita from Bantwal suddenly disappeared. Unlike several earlier cases, Anita's family refused to accept silence or easy explanations. Days passed, but they continued searching relentlessly. They visited police stations repeatedly, questioned relatives and friends, and pressured investigators to treat the disappearance seriously. Their persistence forced the police to dig deeper instead of quickly dismissing the case. Investigators began examining Anita's call records in detail. Among hundreds of phone entries, one particular mobile number attracted attention. Anita had been communicating with it frequently before she vanished. But when police checked the registration details, they discovered something suspicious. The number was linked to a fake identity. That discovery immediately raised alarms. Police surveillance teams started tracking the mysterious phone number carefully. As they followed its activity, they noticed that the number remained active around areas near Mangaluru. Slowly, small clues started connecting together. Investigators discovered similarities with older, unexplained deaths involving women and cyanide poisoning. Hotel records, travel patterns, and witness accounts began pointing towards one recurring figure, a quiet school teacher. The suspicions slowly moved towards Mohan Kumar. Even then, many officers struggled to believe it.
A government science teacher? A man described as polite and disciplined? Could someone like him really be responsible for multiple mysterious deaths across the state? The idea sounded unbelievable, but as investigators continued uncovering evidence, the horrifying truth was becoming impossible to ignore.
By October 2009, investigators in Karnataka had started piecing together a disturbing pattern. The missing women, the fake identities, the hotel stays, the bus stands, the cyanide poison, everything was slowly pointing toward one man, Mohan Kumar. Police teams began quietly monitoring his movements. Officers knew they had to act carefully because the suspect was educated, intelligent, and extremely manipulative. They feared that if he sensed danger, he might disappear forever. Finally, after days of surveillance and planning, police laid a trap and arrested Mohan Kumar. At first glance, he did not look like a serial killer. Witnesses later recalled how calm he appeared during the arrest. There was no panic, no dramatic resistance, no visible fear on his face. He behaved almost like a teacher being called into the principal's office for routine questioning. But when investigators searched his belongings, the true horror began to emerge. Inside his house and personal bags, police discovered items linked to multiple women. There were ATM cards belonging to different victims, fake identity documents, receipts from shops where gold jewelry had been sold, personal belongings connected to missing women. And then, investigators found the most chilling evidence of all: potassium cyanide tablets. The discovery shocked the police force. Until then, many officers believed they were investigating only Anita's murder, but the materials recovered from Mohan's possession suggested something far larger and darker. During interrogation, police initially expected denial or excuses. Instead, they encountered a man who remained disturbingly calm. According to investigators, Mohan spoke without visible emotion. He did not behave like someone overwhelmed by guilt or fear. The deeper questioning went, the more horrifying the truth became. Eventually, under sustained interrogation, Mohan confessed. Not to one murder, not to two, but to the killings of around 20 women between 2003 and 2009. The confession stunned investigators across the state. For years, the deaths had appeared isolated and unrelated. Different towns, different victims, different circumstances. Yet behind all those mysterious cases stood the same man, a government school teacher who had hidden his crimes behind fake identities and emotional manipulation. Police officers reportedly struggled to understand how someone leading such an ordinary public life could carry out killings so methodically for years without attracting serious suspicion. As news of the confession spread, fear and outrage gripped the public. Families of missing women rushed to police stations, hoping for answers. Old case files were reopened. Investigators started re-examining unidentified deaths that had previously been ruled as suicides. The image of Mohan Kumar shocked society even more because he did not fit the public imagination of a violent criminal. He was educated, soft-spoken, disciplined, a teacher trusted with children, yet investigators described him as calculating and emotionally detached. When the case finally reached court, Mohan behaved in a way that surprised everyone again. He refused to rely on lawyers. Instead, he chose to argue his own case. Inside the courtroom, he remained composed and unusually confident. Observers said he spoke logically and calmly before judges, carefully presenting arguments and questioning evidence himself. Many people were disturbed by his behavior. There was no emotional breakdown, no divisible remorse, no dramatic confession in tears. He spoke with the same controlled tone of a school teacher explaining lessons in a classroom. The courtroom often fell silent while Mohan discussed legal points with startling confidence. For many watching the trial, that calmness made him appear even more frightening. During the investigation and trial, another major question emerged. How had a school teacher obtained such a deadly poison repeatedly without attracting attention? The answer revealed another layer of planning. Investigators discovered that Mohan visited goldsmiths and jewelry-related businesses, posing as someone knowledgeable about chemicals or metal polishing. He allegedly claimed he needed cyanide for cleaning brass and gold ornaments during polishing processes. Since small amounts of cyanide were sometimes used in certain industrial and jewelry-related applications, Mohan managed to purchase it without immediately raising suspicion. Using lies, fake identities, and technical-sounding explanations, he obtained the poison that later became his murder weapon. To investigators, this showed how carefully he had studied human trust, not only the trust of his victims, but also the trust of ordinary shopkeepers, hotel staff, and society itself. For years, people saw him as a harmless teacher. By the end of the investigation, Karnataka was looking at one of the most shocking serial murder cases in its criminal history.
As the investigation and court proceedings continued, one thing disturbed people more than anything else about Mohan Kumar. He showed almost no remorse. Families of victims cried in courtrooms. Parents spoke about daughters who disappeared forever after dreaming of marriage and a better life. Investigators described the emotional devastation left behind in dozens of homes across Karnataka. But Mohan's face rarely changed. Observers often described him as unusually calm, controlled, and emotionally detached. Even while listening to horrifying details of the crimes, he reportedly maintained the same composed expression that had once made people trust him as a teacher. During psychiatric evaluation, experts reportedly concluded that Mohan displayed traits associated with psychopathic behavior. Investigators believed he manipulated emotions without feeling genuine empathy for his victims. According to the findings discussed during the investigation, Mohan appeared to derive psychological satisfaction from deception and control. He targeted vulnerable women, gained their trust, stole their valuables, and abandoned them to die, all while continuing his ordinary public life without visible guilt. That realization shocked the nation deeply. People struggled to understand how someone trusted with educating children could secretly exploit and destroy lives so methodically. The media soon began calling him Cyanide Mohan, a name that spread across newspapers and television reports throughout India. As the legal battle progressed, prosecutors presented evidence connecting him to multiple murders. Investigators reconstructed travel records, hotel entries, phone call histories, jewelry transactions, and witness testimonies to establish the pattern behind the crimes. In December 2013, a fast-track court in Mangaluru found Mohan Kumar guilty in the murders of 3 women and sentenced him to death. The judgment marked a major moment in one of Karnataka's most disturbing criminal cases. But the legal process did not end there. Over the following years, trials in additional murder cases continued. Courts examined evidence related to several victims, and Mohan received multiple punishments, including further death sentences and life imprisonment terms in different cases. Each hearing reopened painful memories for victims' families. For years, many families had lived with uncertainty, never knowing what had truly happened to their daughters, sisters, or relatives. The court proceedings finally revealed the horrifying truth behind many disappearances that once seemed like mysterious suicides or unsolved missing person cases. In 2017, the Karnataka High Court reviewed parts of the case. The court converted some of Mohan's death sentences into life imprisonment. One important reason was that many of the prosecutions relied heavily on circumstantial evidence rather than direct eyewitness testimony. However, the court also made its position clear. Judges emphasized the extreme seriousness of the crimes and stated that Mohan should never be allowed to return freely to society. Even where death penalties were reduced, the intention remained that he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Today, the man once feared as Cyanide Mohan remains imprisoned inside Hindalga Central Prison. Behind the prison walls, far from the classrooms where he once taught children, Mohan now spends his days in confinement, while the memories of his crimes continue to haunt many families.
His story remains one of the darkest criminal cases in modern Indian history, not only because of the murders themselves, but because of the terrifying way he weaponized trust. He did not threaten his victims with weapons. He did not force them through violence. Instead, he used kindness, fake love, emotional manipulation, and the social pressures surrounding marriage and dowry to trap vulnerable women who only wanted dignity and happiness. For many people, that betrayal made the crimes even more horrifying. The image of a teacher, a figure usually associated with guidance, knowledge, and safety, became permanently stained by the actions of one man who lived a double life for years. And long after the trials ended, the story of Cyanide Mohan continues to serve as a chilling reminder of how dangerous blind trust can become when it falls into the hands of someone completely without conscience. If you like the story, please like and subscribe to hear more such stories.